Major cities, liberal cities, are overrun with crime. Everywhere you look, think about it. You got carjackings, robberies, theft, smash and grabs. Every city. You don't even know where it is. You just recognize the criminals. Retailers across the country, by the way, lost $112 billion just because of theft. That was in 2022. It got worse in 2023. You got places like New York, Los Angeles, Washington, D.C. Thieves walk right out the front door and take whatever they want. And people like California, Governor Gavin Newsom, think that's okay?
As we're checking out, the woman says, "Oh, he's just walking out. He didn't pay for that." I said, "Well, why aren't you stopping him?" She goes, "The governor lowered the threshold. There's no accountability. I said, "That's just not true." And I said, "We have the 10th toughest, $950, the 10th toughest in America. Go look it up. No one gives a damn about that."
See, he slipped that in. He allows you to take $950, the 10th toughest. Is that okay? Maybe if it's not your store, it's okay. But Governor Ron DeSantis will not let that happen in Florida. He's taking action. He is cracking down hard on crime with a brand new bill that includes 30 years jail time for armed criminals. And joining us now is Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Governor, I just wanted to bring up some memories with Gavin Newsom. You two have a different approach to theft.
Well, that's right, Brian. I mean, one of the things I noticed when I was out in California last year was if you go into like a CVS and you want to get a tube of toothpaste, it's like going through Fort Knox. They have to have everything under lock and key, because if they don't lock things up behind plexiglass, then the criminals just walk away with it, and there's nothing they can do to stop it. And so that has created huge problems.
Right.
And yes, it's created theft rings. But what also happens is it leads to a deterioration of the rule of law, and it really hurts society and the social order. You've seen it in places like Los Angeles. You've seen it in places like San Francisco. Now in Florida, since I've been governor, we've had a 30% decline in retail theft over the last 5 years. So we're proud of that, but we also know we got to be on offense on this. And so we rolled out a series of reforms. We're going to crack down hard on repeat thieves. We're going to make sure if people are using weapons that they are really held accountable when they're stealing property. And we're going to make sure that the porch pirates are held accountable. You know, people will order from Amazon. They'll drop it off at their porch, and you have people that will take it. So we're going to treat that very, very seriously in the state of Florida. So I think what you're going to have is you've already seen people say, why do people steal in New York and not Florida? Because you go to jail in Florida. So we're really going to double down on that approach, and I think that that's going to continue to make the state a really good place to live. We've had an overall decline in crime, but also with retail theft.
Yeah, that was John Miller on CNN. They asked him why people aren't committing crimes in Florida. He said that. By the way, a second-degree felony to use social media to solicit others to join in. So that's really important. That's a very modern way of attacking a new way of committing crime. All right, let's talk about something you were doing. That's running for president. We have one major primary left, and then we have Super Tuesday straight ahead. Nikki Haley still hanging tough, but she's going the full Chris Christie, yet trailing by 36 points in her home state. Tell me if you think these tactics will be effective to close the gap. Listen.
But the truth is, chaos follows him. Everywhere he goes, throws a temper tantrum on stage and talks about revenge. Donald Trump lost in 2018. He lost it for us in 2020. He lost it for us in 2022. March and April, he's in one court case. May and June, he's in another. We lost a vote on Israel. The RNC chair lost her job. And Trump had his fingerprints on all of it. Everything he touches, we lose.
I just noticed the difference in tone. She did not have that tone early on. She's my friend. I think it is my time. He had his time. You weren't doing that. Do you think this tactic is the tactic that'll work to close the gap?
Well, look, our party, about 80% are conservative populist voters. And I think Nikki Haley, she's really playing to the 20% who are more of McCain-Romney Republicans. And look, we need a big tent. We need everyone in. But once you go in that direction, you really poison the well with the vast majority of Republican primary voters. So I thought her strategy from the beginning was curious. I didn't think that there was ever a prospect for her to actually win. And we saw that in Iowa where obviously Donald Trump won a strong victory. I came in second. Nikki Haley came in third. But Brian, the thing is there were 7,000 Democrats who showed up and switched to Republican on the night of the caucus. I was at a couple of these caucus sites. These were very liberal Democrats. They had N95 masks on. They had shirts that had liberal slogans on. And that was a core part of her strategy was to appeal to those people. And so her strategy has been to appeal to people who aren't kind of stock Republicans and card-carrying Republicans. That's just not going to work in a Republican primary, but it's definitely not going to work against somebody who's as well known and has already been president like Donald Trump.
Governor, if you see the president is getting convicted in some of these cases and his numbers start dropping, would you ever jump back in?
Well, look, Donald Trump is going to have the almost 95% of the delegates, whatever happens in those legal cases. And I raised that as a concern when I was running. And, you know, not enough voters thought that was something that they were concerned about, at least in Iowa. But he is going to have the delegates. And so it'll all be in his hands. It's not about jumping back in. He's going to have to make decisions about it. I don't see any situation where he would bow out, even in the face of criminal convictions. And I've thought that really from the beginning. It was ultimately up to the voters, I think, to make the decision.
I love your American story. I'll try to be president. If it doesn't work out, I got another full-time job. I think you took 6 hours off, and you were making news already back in Florida. Great to see you, Governor.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.